Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast, where Tom Lydon and his band of experts make money talk exciting. Here's your host, Tom Lydon.
Welcome to the Bangers Only podcast. Life is short. We've got to keep things simple, folks. Use your time to focus on what's important. That's what Bangers Only is all about. I'm Tom Lydon, and joining me today is Jamie Dulick. Jamie recently retired from a successful career in fashion in the retail space. He's a private pilot, he's a golf fan, and he's also committed to doing some real fun charitable work that we'll talk about. Jamie, great seeing you, man.
Good to see you too, Tom. It's been a minute.
It is. All right. So we got together last week,
Yes.
and for full disclosure, you and I are college buddies, and
Right.
We're lucky. We've got a pretty good crew.
Yeah.
Tell the audience about our trip last week.
Well, we've been doing this, I think, on and off for 40 years, way more on than off. But we get together, 1-2 times a year for golf trips. And we recently went up to, one of the guys that we went to college with was very, very successful, has a home on Lake Sunapee on Star Island. It's one of like 3 homes, I think. And just had a fantastic time up there. But there were 7 of us up there. And it was, the great thing is it's like we never left each other, right? It's just one laugh after another, and just a great time.
And we know where all the bodies are buried. What's funny is when we get around, everybody cares about each other. But, we used to talk about how great looking we were. And now we just talk about our ailments and our surgeries, right?
Absolutely. And there's plenty of them.
Yeah. All right. So, but there's a little bit more detail. You're in Charlotte and
Correct.
I'm at the Jersey Shore, and you came up and picked me up. So tell me a little bit about the piloting and your history there. That's important.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I became a pilot back. I think I started my training back in 2005. I got my initial private pilot's license in 2006. It took me probably about 5 or 6 months to get it. And it was really based on a fear of flying, actually. I was like a really nervous flyer. I flew a lot for business commercially. Was, like I said, not a very good flyer in turbulence. I used to get really nervous, anxious. And so I decided a way to tackle that was to actually get my private pilot's license. So I did it. And again, started that back in 2006. Immediately went into training for my instrument rating. Did that for a couple of years. And at that time, I was just flying like single engine props. Kind of graduated up. It's a rather expensive hobby at some point, but kind of worked my way up. And I think it was in about maybe 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. I wound up buying one of the first very light jets that came out. I bought it used, but it was great fun. I've been through a couple of different jets for different reasons, but started flying, like I said, back then. And primarily one of the benefits was that I was able to bring my dog with me. I had a Labrador at the time. Was able to bring Cassie with me wherever we went. We lived in Walnut Creek, California. We had a place down in Palm Springs. And I used to be able to bring Cassie with me down there on the trip. And it was only, probably about a 2-hour flight, something like that. But it really made a difference. And ultimately learning how to fly started to change my life. But I think it was probably around, I'd have to look, but it was probably around maybe 2010, 2011. I was on an owner's forum and some guy was commenting about how he had just done a dog flight for an organization called Pilots N Paws. And being a dog lover, I was really intrigued by that. And it's an amazing site. It's an amazing organization. There's so many people, so many pilots that are involved in it. But basically what it does is gets dogs out of shelters or out of fosters and gets them to where they can be either adopted in a safe place or gets them to their permanent home.
So talk a little bit about that network, because obviously there are a bunch of pilots or this thing isn't going to work, but
Right.
also there are people that foster There are people that find dogs. There are also people that are interested in getting a new pup and that will go to that site first to look for a dog, right?
Sure, yeah. So if you look and you register, I think you have to register to probably get too deep into it, but it's simply called pilotsandpaws.com, and that's pilotsnpaws.com. And there are transport maps. You can, if you sign up, you can see missions. There are volunteers that don't fly. You don't have to fly to be involved in it. There are, like you said, fosters. There are incredibly gracious people that will transport the dogs from the shelters and bring them to me at the airport where I can then transport them.
Yeah.
And it's really touching when you see these people, because a lot of them, I'm telling you, they have nothing. I mean, their cars are barely held together with like duct tape. You can tell they don't have two nickels to rub together, and yet they're spending their time and their money to help, aid in the transport of these dogs.
Well, I thank you for exposing me to it, because when you picked me up at the Jersey Shore last week, you had a pup, Daisy, in there, and we're going to share some pictures of Daisy. And what a cute dog. And talk a little bit about how that was coordinated and how did all those dots get connected.
Well, it's the site, the Pilots and Paws site actually makes it easy. There's something called a transport map on there, and it will show you with lines and arrows every mission that needs to be completed. So basically, whenever I'm going to take a personal trip, and again, I'm really blessed, really fortunate to be able to fly my own plane. But anytime I'm going to take a personal trip, I go to Pilots and Paws and I look on it and I say, hey, okay, is there somewhere near something nearby where a dog needs to get from this place to somewhere around where I'm going? And then there's people that are listed as senders and receivers, and you just coordinate it with them. And they do, I confess, they do most of the groundwork as far as getting the ground transport done. I mean, mine's the easy part. All I have to do is fly.
Yeah.
So,
So
but this was one where a dog it was looking to get from probably about an hour or so, hour and a half away from me where I'm based. It was in Rockingham, North Carolina. It was a starvation case of a wonderful female Vizsla that looks like it had probably been overbred at some point, but it was looking to get to Maine. So I offered to take it as far up as Lebanon, New Hampshire, where we were going. And then there was another pilot that was gracious enough to meet me that day, or us that day, and take the dog the rest of the way. And he actually sheltered that dog overnight,
did he?
to
Yeah.
make the trip the next day.
So when we finally got to Lebanon, he was there.
Right.
He had to go through some weather to get there.
Yeah.
His plane, I don't know if I'd be comfortable even getting in it. It was, it had a glass thing that you kind of put over your head. But man, he was dedicated. And, you were very generous to give him a little bit of money, and you could tell that that meant something to him as well. You knew that Daisy was going to be in great hands. And man, as we're walking away, heading off to be with our friends golfing for a few days, it warms your heart.
Oh, it totally does. And then that's the one thing that I probably would want to stress to people is that a lot of dogs that are at least a little bit older, not necessarily puppies, but they know when they're getting out of the shelter and I'm flying them, they're going to someplace better. I mean, you can just kind of feel it in them. But I really get a lot more out of this than they do. I mean, there is no greater feeling that I get, even before I retired, when I was still, doing this. Now I'm able to do it, fortunately, even more. But there's no greater feeling than when I'm flying home after a mission. And I know that, whether it's, I've flown one dog, I've flown 3 dogs, I've flown 10 puppies on occasions, sometimes 5 puppies. There's no better feeling when I go home and I'm driving home after I've landed than knowing that I, helped save their lives.
Yeah. And you and your wife also still foster as well, right?
Correct. We've got 4 rescue French bulldogs right now. And we're fostering a 5th. I admit this one's going to be really, really tough to give up because she's really kind of taken hold of our hearts.
Yeah.
But she was overbred, a bit underweight, but she had a serious neck problem and was in a lot of pain, I think, to the point where she was screaming quite a bit. So the guy that had overbred her basically brought her to the vet to have her euthanized. But a dog rescue that we're working with down here called Forgotten Now Family got hold of the dog. They got a chiropractor there. They fixed the dog's neck.
Wow.
She's been with us now since we got back from our summer trip. So she's been with us probably close to a month now, but she's absolutely thriving with our dog. She's going to be, a great addition to our family. But if we find the right family, we would give her up because that just makes room for us to foster another.
All right. And taking the next step, when we were in the golf cart, you were talking about, since you've recently moved to the Charlotte area,
Right.
there is demand because there is foul play with animals in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And
There is so much backyard breeding. There are dog fighting rings that go on. And we found out from the lady that runs the rescue that, you know, these are matches that have $100,000 on them, but I don't know how this became a thing, but it's just horrible because they have things called bait dogs that are used to train the killer dogs, and they just get mangled and destroyed and killed. And it's just a completely heartless thing. But this area, or this rescue that we're working with called Forgotten Now Family, they specialize in abuse cases. So they get the calls from animal control about all the abuse cases, and they've taken in so many dogs. I mean, so we are really supporting them now, both financially. We're actually having an event at our house on the 23rd of August to raise money for them. We're probably going to have somewhere between 150 and 200 people here, and I'm going to put the screws on people to donate. So
good. That's
yeah.
good for you. Well, it was great to hear about it. I know you've been involved in it, but to hear the details and actually just to see it is crazy. I know just seeing Daisy walk off with that pilot, it was like, okay, you've done your job. And I could just tell in you've done this many, many, many times, but
Yeah.
Daisy's going to be in better hands. And
Right.
it's a big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears for a second and
Okay.
talk a little bit about retirement. We're about the same age. I just went through kind of a big deal
Menopause?
last year. What's that?
Menopause.
Yeah, I've done that before. It was a failed hair transplant. That's
Okay.
what yeah. But I didn't do well in retirement, and it sounds like you're doing okay. I mean, you look at our friend group, we've got
Right.
some that are, a good chunk of them are retired. Some have just embraced it tremendously. A few others kind of tried to do it and said, I can't take it anymore. I got to go back. Where
Yep.
do you stand on that spectrum?
I'm not going back. I can tell you that for sure. I was blessed with a great career. Basically, for the most part, the last 30 years making swimwear, mostly women's. They buy more than men do, as anybody who's watching the podcast could probably attest to. But was blessed with a great career. But since I left that, I was really shocked at how fast I was able to let that go. But I think one of the things that worked for me was, we were fortunate enough to get involved with owning a cannabis dispensary up in Ohio, which we took over last August. I had always owned the building and did the remodel, but we actually took over the business last August. But that really only burns up maybe half an hour to an hour of my day. So that part's pretty easy. But I think the other thing is having this thing of doing dog rescue, because it's not like you just jump into the plane and go and, you don't think about it until that day. I was supposed to fly 10 puppies today, but just the weather was not right for both me and the pilot that was going to do the second part of the mission. But there's a lot of flight planning that goes into it to make sure everything is safe. So I spend a fair amount of time on that. I'm trying to do a rescue like at least every other week. But I've kept busy with that. And then also really just, keeping our day busy. My wife recently retired. She had a great career on the retail side of things. And like, for instance, we just got back from doing a workout together at this place called F45. So we're doing a lot of things together, trying to get involved, like I said, with these charity things. And we're really able to fill up our day pretty well. And it's okay to have a little bit of downtime. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that, but the day seems to fill itself up for me. So we've been, again, this has only been a couple months for me, but I've been really happy with it so far.
Well, I want updates. You also played a little bit of golf. Your golf
Right?
game's pretty good. Not as good as mine. I mean,
Yeah,
being the best golfer in the group
exactly.
this last week, and winning all the money, I felt bad, and I hope you guys don't hold that against me.
Oh, never, never. As
A-
long as
Any
as long as you give us lessons, Tom, we'll be fine.
right? Okay. For the real truth, I was by far the worst. I'm not
No,
sure if
you were fine.
I'm not going to be invited back next time.
Yes, you will. It's not
Uh,
about the golf.
it isn't. It's about the corn. It's about everything else
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
eating for sure. So talk a little bit about we're lucky because this group of guys that we have, and I think all in they're probably 10 or 12 that we've kept in touch with over the years, and we get
Right.
together periodically. It's pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been great. I mean, we were close in college. We were close after, in and out in varying degrees, but I think we were a lot more, for the most part, spread out around the country. You were in California. I was kind of in the Midwest up in Ohio, and I was in Northern California, and I was in Minnesota for a while. So I think for a couple of years, it kind of dwindled a little bit, but we had great trips. We used to go to Arizona. We've done a bunch of Florida trips. Now we're doing the New Hampshire things in the summer. We've been down to my place on the Panhandle in Florida, and we'll go back there, knock on wood, when the house gets finished soon. But it's been great. And these are some, really successful people. I mean, that, for being a bunch of knuckleheads, I think a lot of us have done really well. We've been really fortunate. And I think that bond that we have, when I tell some other people that, yeah, we're still getting together twice a year after, 40 some odd years, they're kind of jaws dropping. They're like, wow, I never really see anyone from college or high
Yeah.
school or anything like that anymore. So I think it's good. I mean, I think we're really lucky that we're all still here, quite frankly, with what we put ourselves through. But thank God there was no social media back then and no iPhone.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. And
Right.
the funny thing is, as you point out, everybody in their own right did pretty well,
Mhm.
but nobody ever talks business.
No.
And I think we all like business in our own way, but we all kind of want to get away from it while we're up there.
Yeah.
And and we give each other a really, really hard time.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
just like we were back in college, which is, I think, one thing that we miss as well. In our professional careers, we have to watch what we say and what we do. But when we're off just by ourselves, we can joke around and tell the big fish stories and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
No, it's, I mean, it's, you can't replace days like that,
yeah,
And one of the great things is, like I think I said before, is that when we all get together, it's like we were never apart from each other. And I think, to your point that you were making, everybody's done well. Like, and it's not that nobody cares. If somebody's got an issue or something they're working through, we'll bring it up. I mean, my big question last week to everybody was, hey, I'm turning 65 later this month. What parts of Medicare do I sign up for? You
yeah.
know, and everybody was really helpful in telling me. Hopefully it's the right answers,
It's
because it
so
kind of,
friggin' sad. It's so sad.
yeah,
All right. So with that in mind, so you you lost your folks fairly young, both your
yeah,
mom and your dad. And I remember when you got the news about your dad passing very, very quickly. And I just lost my dad last year. And as we are now facing our own mortality and we're kind of on the other side of the curve, um, what are you
speak
thinking
for
about?
yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean,
No, I'm kidding.
I know. Well, that's the whole thing. Like, we want to be around for a long period of time, and we've been lucky. I mean, our group has been lucky, but everyone's had their own health things as well.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, you think about, you know, leaving a mark. I think about, with your son or with my kids or family or stuff like that. You know, now's the time. Uh, what are the most important things? And I think about your commitment to this charity, which is like absolutely huge. Am I being selfish by spending more time on the pickleball court when I could be maybe providing free financial advice or retirement guidance to people? I yeah, that's a void that I'd like to, you know, maybe find. And I think other people are looking for that as they approach retirement too.
Yeah, no, I think, look, I think, you can do that. You could still play pickleball if you just set aside a couple hours, find, whether it's, young athletes in particular amaze me because a couple of years ago when we were in Ohio, we had a little side business. It was a cryotherapy spa and a bunch of guys from Ohio State used to come. And one of them was Michael Thomas, who became a receiver with the New Orleans Saints. Really high draft pick. He's an outstanding athlete. He was the humblest, nicest young man I ever met out of Ohio State. Well, one of the nicest and humblest young men I've ever met, period. But he was this kid who was getting ready to go into the draft. He's going to get multi-million-dollar contract up front, with a big signing bonus. And he came to the spa one day and he said, "Hey, can I come and see you someday, on an off day just to talk to you about something?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem." He came to me because he didn't even know how to get a credit card. I mean,
Wow.
and what my big concern for him was when he got down to the combine, all the shark agents that were going to go after him probably signed him to a bad deal,
Yeah.
which from what I understand, kind of happened. But you can still do those things. I mean, I think the legacy that Chris and I are still kind of working through, but we've both been really, really blessed. So one of our goals now, and we're over at our real estate agent's house last Friday night, having some cocktails. And I said, we want to find a 10 to 20 acre piece of land around here with like a stream running through it or near a small lake or something like that. And we basically want to build a dog sanctuary where we can get dogs out of the shelters into a place, have a full-time trainer, full-time vet, and have, people either working or volunteering there. We probably have to have a couple of paid employees, but we want to get the dogs out of there into an environment where they're more relaxed, they're not so stressed, and it's a better environment for them to be able to get adopted. One of the things we want to do is hook up with a microbrewery and then advertise it as like a date night. You go up, you have a couple of beers, you take some dogs out for a walk, around the property. We want to have like, little shallow wading pools for the dogs and just, big outdoor areas where they can roam, but then also like an old, whether it's an older building or something that we have to build, kind of safe places for them to be at night with tons of, furniture and beds and dog beds and things like that in it. So that's kind of our vision that we're sort of working towards right now.
So you could bring, that'd be a great place for fosters or people who want to adopt dogs as
Right.
well. Or even if you just want to volunteer and dip your toe in it to some degree, right?
Yeah, and I've always told people, and I've spoken at Ohio State and a couple other of, little organizations about doing charity work because I've been doing the flights for a while. And it kind of like somebody showed up at the hangar once and they were from a news thing and they did an article in the Columbus paper and all of a sudden people started talking about it. But I said, look, you know, I wasn't fortunate enough when I was younger to have the money like I do now to be able to donate and fly the plane and do these things. But there are things that I could have done, which is just give some of your time. So it's whether, I tell people whether you go to an old person's home and just sit with some people for a while, or whether you go to a dog shelter and just get them out of the shelter for whether it's an hour long walk or whether you decide to take them home on a weekend or something like that as a trial. I mean, I tell people you're going to get more out of it than they will. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just an amazing thing. But if everybody just does something, I mean, I think we'd be in a lot better shape.
Jamie, thank you. It was great seeing you last week. Thanks for the lift. Thanks for the laughs.
That
Thanks
was
for the
fun.
friendship. And it's been really nice hearing all this. We're going to have pictures up. We're going to have connectivity to Pilots and Paws, and we'll also give if anybody wants to connect and hear more from Jamie and his experience, just reach out to us at Bangers Only, and we'll make sure that we connect you. So anyway, Jamie, thanks. We'll catch up soon. Love you, man.
Okay, love you too, Tommy. Thanks.
Take
Thanks
care.
for your time. Bye now.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific investment advice. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results.